North Carolina Educator Effectiveness System, NCEES, Guidance for Mentors and Evaluators, Part 2. You've been a part of Part 1 if you attended a meeting or webinar in the past where you looked at the various kinds of things about how to use this system. The presenters today are Anne-Marie DeCourt-Young and Bobby Rowland, that's me, and we're from the University of North Carolina, EESLPD. And notice we keep throwing all these initials in. That, I think, stands for Early Educator Support, Licensure, and Professional Development Office. And we're part of the Western Hub of the EESLPD office. We're going to look at today 3 major things. So the focus of today's guidance part is on the Professional Development Plan, the PDP, mid-year and end-of-the-year review. Then we're going to focus on observations, including the peer observation, and then we're going to focus on summary evaluation. Now, I do want to point out that you'll see us looking at our notes, and it's because we want to be precise. We want to make sure we're actually presenting the data in the proper form so that it's useful to you. So here we go, and here's Anne-Marie.
Thank you, Bobby, and welcome everybody on my part as well. As Bobby said, we spent time earlier in the year introducing the system to you, how to access, etc. And now we are moving beyond the first PDP and start with that section first, the Professional Development Plan Mid-Year Review. First of all, you need to know that the evaluator must have locked the initial PDP container before the teacher can actually start entering his or her accomplishments to date. The slide here shows you what the teacher sees when he or she goes into the system. She or he has to enter the mid-year review container, PDP mid-year review container, and click on the first link, the mid-year PDP details, and then it will open up this particular screen for the teacher. In order for him or her to enter accomplishments, they must click on New next to the orange dot. You see that green arrow pointing to the dot, next to it the button New. They have to click on it, and that will open a window where they can type in their accomplishments for all the goals to date on the PDP in the middle of the year. When the teacher has entered that information, the system will automatically send a message to the evaluator. Now, if it is a teacher with less than an SP2 license, the teacher should also notify his or her mentor so that the mentor and the teacher can first review this mid-year PDP information and both sign off. Once the mentor has signed the mid-year PDP review, the system will also send a message automatically to the evaluator. So the evaluator knows when the mentor has signed the mid-year PDP review as well.
All right, so now we're going to watch Anne-Marie at the computer. She's going to go through a whole section there where she's really pointing out in key points. So keep your eyes open and your ears too.
Okay, thank you, Bobby. I have opened the actual HomeBase system live, and I used my staff evaluations tab to find my teacher. And here she is. This is Tina, and Tina has given me permission to share this screen with you. We will not show any confidential information, just some screenshots. So, under the staff evaluations, I will go in now that I know that my teacher has entered her her mid-year PDP review information, I click on her name next to Professional Development Plan 2014-2015. And this is the screen we will see. The initial PDP container has solid green check marks, and therefore it was locked by the evaluator. Therefore, Tina could go to the PDP mid-year review section. So let's take a look at the next container, the PDP mid-year review. The PDP details mid-year review link is the first one. I will not open this because that is due to confidentiality. You see that the mentor has signed a mid-year review already, and that is because Tina is an SP1 teacher, and the mentor and the teacher herself has signed her mid-year review as well. Before this training, I have reviewed everything, so now it is my turn as the evaluator to sign the mid-year review. I open that link. It will show you what the teacher has entered, which I am not going to do. I am scrolling down to the bottom. And here, as the evaluator, I can add a comment by clicking on New. It opens up a comment box, and I can make a statement. If I wanted to, I could add an attachment, but I'm not going to. I just am going to save and exit. And here is my comment. Now I am going to sign off on the PDP mid-year review by clicking on Acknowledge. And let's take a look again. The PDP mid-year review should now have solid green check marks. Oh my! The first one does not. If you see that there is not a solid green check mark, you can do two things. Number one, you can tell the teacher to go back and finalize. But since we've already reviewed it all, I, as the evaluator, can go all the way over here and mark the PDP mid-year review complete by clicking on the check mark. Let's look again. Now we have all the green check marks in the PDP mid-year review container. So as the evaluator, I can now lock the activity. And it asks me whether I am absolutely sure, and I am. So I am going to click OK. It shows you exactly what has been locked. And let's make sure. Mid-year review has been locked. Finally, for the end of year review, we would go to the appropriate a container which is now accessible by Tina, my teacher. And here you see the PDP end of year review. The process is the same steps. I am not going to open it. But the teacher is now able to go in and begin entering her accomplishments for the end of the year when we get to that point. The one difference at the end of the year PDP review is that the evaluator also indicates whether the teacher has met his or her goals. And you will be asked to click yes or no for each of the goals. Then finally, at the end of the year, you will also need to open this PDP record of activities. That container allows you to print or save a record of all actions related to the PDP process for the whole year. The evaluator must also log that container to complete the PDP process. As usual, logging instructions are available at the end of each container. So now we can look at the observation evaluation section of the system.
Now, if you look at this next slide, we've got another helpful element using the sub-menu at the left in the gray bar. When you are in the correct teacher file, this is one way to open the observation section. This little sub-menu allows you to go back and forth between the two sections, PDP and observations. So look at the green arrow on the screen. If you're going in the system for the first time or have worked on another teacher's data, click on the Staff Evaluations tab to find the teacher. When you see the two rows, click on the teacher's name next to Probationary Teacher Evaluation 2014-2015, that's for SP1 teachers, or Career Teacher, Career Abbreviated Evaluation 2014-2015 for the SP2 teachers. Remember, we've reviewed the steps for the first observation in the part 1 of the guidance training. Now we're focusing on the next steps in the online system. For SP1 teachers, the EESLPD process requires we do 4 observations and a summary evaluation. Observation 2, 3, or 4 must be entered under the Peer Observation tab.
Okay, Bobby mentioned this little submenu, so let me show that to you. It is at the top of the screen, 3 horizontal lines with a little arrow. And since I am still in Tina's file, it's very easy to use. I click on it and look, here are the 2 links. I am in her professional development plan already. I do want to go to the probationary teacher evaluation section. So I click on the link and it opens up that part of the system. Let's make sure what happened with the training orientation. She did that. Let's look at the first observation. All these steps, like Bobby said, we went over in the initial overview. Here you see solid green check marks and the container has been locked. The evaluator had to do that in order to move to the second observation. So let's take a look and see what is going on with observation number 2. I open the container and here we see some steps. Note the pre-observation link and the acknowledgement link. Now remember, we only are required to do a pre-observation conference and have the teacher acknowledge that for observation number 1. It is optional for subsequent observations. So for Tina, we did not do a pre-observation conference. The formal observation, the rubric, has been completed. It has been shared with the teacher. The post-observation conference has been documented by the evaluator and acknowledged by the teacher. The teacher acknowledgement of the post-conference means that the evaluator has discussed the observation with him or her, and no separate signatures are required on the rubric. Now, let's see here. Tina opened the written response. A teacher may use this to add information or evidences based on his or her review of the rated rubric and the comments of the evaluator. If this container has been opened by the teacher, then the evaluator must acknowledge, even if there's nothing in there. So I have to click on it. There are no comments. So I am not going to enter anything either, but I have to mark it complete. Now remember, tell your teachers not to open the written response unless he or she really wants to share some additional information with you. Let's see if I can lock observation number 2. It allows me to. So I am going to apply the lock. Let's take one more look at observation number 2. And you see that even though the teacher opened the written response and I did acknowledge it, hers was not solid green. I was still able to lock the container because I acknowledged what she did. This will allow me as the evaluator to go on to subsequent observations.
Remember, for the teacher with less than an SP2 license, there are 4 observations that are required. You have to document the 2nd, the 3rd, or the 4th under the Peer Observation tab. If additional observations are needed, say for teachers on a monitored PDP, then these can be documented under Additional Observation tab. Follow the same steps.
Just like you do with any other observation.
Just like.
And you see the arrow on the slide pointing to the tab of the peer observation, and next to it you see the tab Additional Observations. So Bobby, now we're getting to the summary evaluation.
The summary evaluation can be started once the evaluator has locked all containers for each observation. I'm going to say that again. The summary evaluation can be started once the evaluator has locked all containers for each observation. Containers will not lock until all tasks have been completed. As the evaluator reviews all the observations, in the Record of Teacher Evaluation Activity container, you'll find a link you can use for this review. When you click on the observation scoring summary, Anne-Marie will show you that, it opens a section with all markings from observations and the evaluator comments listed. It's all there. If a teacher was rated developing for 3 observations and proficient during the last observation, it definitely shows the teacher's growth. The evaluator needs to use professional judgment in determining if there has been enough evidences from the teacher of an overall rating of proficient on the summary evaluation. Once the summary evaluation container, open that and then click Edit next to Summary Evaluation Form. The evaluator can complete the summary evaluation conference during the post-conference for the last observation to eliminate a need for an additional visit. If you plan to do that, inform the teacher and the site administrator of the process and indicate that the post-conference will take longer. All work has to be completed before the teacher leaves for the summer. When all the data has been entered and acknowledged, the evaluator locks the final summary evaluation container. I don't know how many times I need to say this, but this is really essential. Make sure to save a copy of the summary evaluation to your computer and tell your teachers to do the same, or print it out for their portfolio.
So Bobby talked about a few things that I am now going to show you. She mentioned that prior to the summary evaluation, you review as the evaluator all the past observations. One feature in the system is this record of teacher activity evaluation activities container. If you click on that, here you find that link that Bobby mentioned. When you open the observation scoring summary, it opens up a new window with a rubric and all the scorings that you have given as an evaluator during all observations and your comments for each of the section. So you can use it before you go to the summary evaluation. Now I know some of you like to save hard copies and you may review the previous observations that way. But there is a feature in the system that allows you to go back and view the scoring summary. Here then is the summary evaluation container. Very similar to what you just noticed on the slide, with the steps to start the evaluation form, with a step to document the summary evaluation conference, and with the step for the teacher to acknowledge the summary evaluation conference. Again, the teacher may use the written response section, but if there are no additions, he or she should not open this. If the teacher does, then you as the evaluator again must acknowledge that you noticed what he or she did. Once all these steps are completed and you see solid green check marks, here too, the evaluator will lock the summary evaluation activities. Now, the very last step that you may need to document is in that container where we noticed the observation scoring summary. In that same container is also the record of teacher evaluation activities. That is the final documentation where you may need to enter a little bit of information about the background of your teacher. Most of the information under this link, when it opens up, will be populating information from the system. But again, you may need to add some background about your teacher. When you open that activity, you can click on Edit, where a window will open for you to type something in. Always save and exit when you are done. And one more time, the summary evaluation process is really very similar to previous observations, and the documentation, data entry is very, very similar.
Okay, some final reminders. Use that peer observation tab to document only one observation for those SP2 teachers. Remember we talked about that. So it's observation 2, 3, or 4.
For the SP1 teacher.
For the SP1 teachers. Evaluator must share the rubric before they can finalize it. Evaluators have to lock containers to proceed. All steps have to have a green check mark. And really, you know, advising those teachers to save and or print a copy of the summary evaluation and the final BDP, that's for their good and for our good and for the good of the system. Remember when you're talking about those steps, like you have to share, then you have to finalize, and you'll see a menu where you can, that'll drop when you put the share, and then you'll see something that says complete. So those are just final reminders to pull everything together.
Yeah, and Bobby, it's really no different than what we did for the first observation.
That's right, yeah. It's really, it turns out to be, which I thought it was a very difficult system, it turns out once you use it, it's not too bad.
Okay, so to finalize this training, just a couple of reminders too if you have any technical needs. Technical support for the system, first and foremost, are help guides in the system itself. You see here on the slide the arrow that points to the help guides. So look there first before you contact your regional lead or the project coordinator for your area of the state. For that, you can go on the EESLPD main website and find a link, County, Regional Map and Staff Contacts. That link will open up a map with regional leads for your county. All the information is in that document when you open it. Now, a final reminder for you and your teachers. Again, the teachers on their side of the system also have help guides in HomeBase, just like we do as mentors and evaluators. And then what we mentioned earlier, we have recently added a few more pieces to section 6 of the EESLPD Teacher Manual Live Binder. Here is the access link and the access key. This should be very familiar to you, and it should be very familiar to your teachers. This link and the access key are both listed on the bottom of the first page of the team agreement, both the SP1 and the SP2 team agreement. So please look around section 6. We have added a few resources to help teachers with access, as well as with their initial PDP and with their mid-year PDP review. Thank you so much for your attention, and good luck with finishing out the school year.